Hello and welcome to our weekly IG Live chats. We are on here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, and we we have chats with author Deedee Cummings. We get to hear all about her books and exciting things going on. Last week we learned all about the K Club, which if you haven't signed up yet, can check that out if you go to the link in our bio and sign up. That's a really fun activities for kids. And this week, I believe we're going to be talking to the illustrator of Deedee's books, and that is Charlene Mosley. So we'll be joined by Deedee and Charlene in just a minute. But again, you can check out all of the past IG Lives on our YouTube channel. We're in the process of uploading those. We have a lot of them uploaded already, and we're going to be doing some more. You can find where Deedee read one of her Christmas books. She also gives a lot of tips for authors, a lot of information about the publishing world and getting started, advantages to publishing for yourself, and also the different ways that you can publish. It's not just one thing or another. And so she has a lot of really great insight and experience. So she is going to be joining us every week. We get to talk about a different topic. Like I said, last week was all about the K Club, which is very exciting. It's something you get, that you can sign your kids up for. You don't get spammed. You just get once a month, you get a newsletter with lots of fun activities, and it's all printable activities that you can do. And hold on, let's get her on here. So you can look, that's going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel soon, or you can just go to the link in our bio and check it out. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
That's always the first thing I do is like, oh, man.
Because you don't really.
It always looks different on camera than it does in the mirror.
I know. You don't see your hair until you get on here. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I see Charlene is on with us. I can't wait for her to join us.
Here, let me see if I can get her. I just sent her an invitation.
I'm so
excited. Yes.
Probably one of the number one questions I get is about how you find an illustrator and how you work with an illustrator. So we are very fortunate to have Charlene on today to talk to us about how we found each other and how we work together.
I've sent her an invitation. Oh, there she is. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Charlene, how are you?
Good. How are you two?
Good. So happy to see you. I was just telling Lynn that I'm so excited about talking to you today about how we put books together and how we met each other.
Yes, thank you for having me. I mean, I've been on your guys' live for a while, and it's always so interesting what you talk about, even for illustrators and other artists and people all around. It's really good feedback. Also good to know for people who have kids in the future, you know.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. This is my first time getting to see you. I feel like I already know you because I see your illustrations all the time, and we've talked about you on the IG Live since I've joined in, and we really enjoy the books, the Kayla books, and how you've illustrated them. And I think that is, like Deedee said, that's a question I know I have is how does that whole process come about? Because the pictures go so well with the story, just how you came up with, how do you illustrate somebody else's idea and kind of put on paper what she has in her mind? It's pretty amazing.
Well, I think it's a lot about teamwork for sure. And you have to have someone that you can connect with in a certain way. So it's, for me personally, when I read through the manuscript, it has to stick with me and it has to be something that I want to do. And Deedee's work so far has been just amazing writing and the work you've produced before I even came on board was just super convincing, and I loved every bit of it. The therapy aspect, the coping mechanisms, all the things that are an extra to, me illustrating a piece of writing or text. So that was just a given that I'd want to be part of that. And then I got to know everyone at Makeaway Media. So, but yeah, when looking at a manuscript, I need to connect with it. And then definitely it's about communication with the author. because you want to kind of get into their head and know what the story is about, and you know what they want to achieve with it, who it might be based on, and so forth. I need to go into their heads and really connect to that, and then it's all about dialogue from there on.
So how
So
much
neat.
did you guys communicate during that process? Like, did you come up with a draft and then send it kind of back and forth, or how did that work?
Well, in the very beginning, when we first met, there was definitely a lot more checking in, right, Deedee? We talked about the project, the manuscript, and we were on the phone, video phoning a lot. We didn't even meet until 3 years later, right? We did everything
Right.
online.
Yes.
And so it was a lot of video communication and making sure everything's right. But now throughout the years, I think we're so in sync that she gives me a manuscript, and then I give her some sketches. Maybe we check out the characters, how they're going to look. And then from there on, it's she trusts me.
Yes. Yes. And that's true. I do trust her because we are in sync. And Charlene, I just want to tell you, Leanne has a beautiful daughter, and she's so creative and so neat. And Leanna said that her daughter said she loves to read the book with the girl with the curly hair.
Yes. She
Relates.
has curly hair, so she always asks. Well, she asks about her friend who writes books, who's
Yeah,
Deedee,
me.
and then the book with curly hair. Yeah, the girl with curly hair.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so she loves. But yeah, I do think that Charlene and I have gotten into sync because we've worked together so long now. And one of the top questions I get from people who want to make picture books is, and I even get this from kids too, kids who are interested in art and writing stories. They often ask, and I just want to say hi to everybody who's joined. Thank you all so much. Good crowd. We have a good crowd today, Charlene. That's you. But kids often and adults who want to make books often ask, do I tell Charlene what to draw, or does Charlene just do whatever she wants? And definitely, I think most authors, me included, hey guys, thanks to everybody saying hi. Most authors, I think, do have kind of an image in their mind of what they would like to see or what they think a character might look like. So you can when you have an idea like that, you should share it, because you don't want an illustrator to make a whole character workup or even get started and do a lot of work, and then you say, I'm just really not feeling that. So usually Charlene will, I'll try to describe to Charlene what I see in my head, but it's hard for me to describe that because my mind just doesn't think the way that Charlene's mind thinks. Sometimes if I have an idea, I will try to explain it to Charlene, and then Charlene will work her magic. And then pretty much from there, once kind of like my idea is set, then Charlene will run with it. But we've definitely done a few projects where I've told Charlene, just take the words and let me see what you do, because sometimes you don't want to stifle that art either, because Charlene will come up with amazing things if I don't draw a box around it. If I just say, let me see what you can do, I'm blown. And I tell her all the time, this is even more than I even thought it would be.
I think that's even better if we develop a trust where I can do more things on my end when it comes to the visuals, because that just, I don't know, it just opens up a lot more creativity. Mm-hmm. And I can work with either clients, it's fine, or authors. Sometimes there are very limited things that I can work with, and it's fine, because even then there's still a lot you can do color wise, composition wise, putting things together with what you have, technique wise. There are many things an illustrator can pull from. But when you get the open box where you can pull from anything you want, that's always the most fun. But even sometimes when we don't click completely and I come up with a couple sketches and Deedee's like, I'm not so sure, I think there's something that we still need to do, then we often have our video calls and we'll go back and forth and brainstorm together, and I'll start sketching and she can watch the sketch and be like, oh yeah, this is good, this is not working so well. And I also love those times, because that's kind of when we hit the high point, because we both then find out, oh, this is what we're going to do for the cover, or this is going to be the character. So
Yeah.
that's always super fun when we get to work together.
Yes.
I have a question for Charlene. So for somebody watching who, because if I remember right, looking at your website, you do a lot of other things than just illustrating children's books. So if there's an artist who's watching this who's thinking, maybe I'll go that direction too. Maybe they're thinking about illustrating children's books. What would you say to them about how that experience is different than maybe other kind of work that you would do as an artist?
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're an independent artist or a fine artist, for example, because I am a fine artist and an illustrator. So there's a little bit of a difference because as a fine artist, you do things by yourself. You make all decisions by yourself. You're in the studio by yourself. You might get some people that are your peers to come and critique your work, but other than that, it's mostly a solo working situation. And then with being an illustrator or any freelance artist, you do have to be able to work as a team. That means being able to handle feedback and critique, being able to compromise sometimes in good ways, making sure that what is wrong you can fix, because something that might not work in the first place can be fixed in a way that you could still use it and use your idea. You just need to tweak it a little. So you have to learn kind of to be a team player and to have somebody else's decision making also be a major role in your visual art that you make. So that's, I think, the main difference. Yeah, but basically, if you're a fine artist, I feel like a lot of my work isn't a traditional illustration style. It has a lot of painterly aspects to it and traditional aspects to it. So I don't think I mean, if you're a creative, then there are different areas that you can go into without, limiting yourself. Because a lot of times people think, well, I'm an illustrator. That's all I am. I think that if you're an illustrator, you could be a concept designer. You could illustrate basically concept of film and make concept designs for a film if you wanted to. So sometimes I feel like people have those, they're a little timid about switching to different categories in the arts.
I would love for people to hear about your experience with film.
Yeah.
One of the illustrators on an Oscar nominated film.
Yeah, 2016, right after graduation, I had applied, well, while I was still in school before graduation, I applied for a submission, an artist call. I thought it was just a random thing because I would do that all the time, just apply to plenty of things. And then at some point I might get a response back. But I applied and I got contacted right before graduation to come to an interview and to do testing. And so that turned out to be a video call at midnight. And I thought that was weird, not very professional maybe. But then again, it turned out that was a video call coming from Poland. And that's how I found out I'd be invited to go to Poland to work on the film called Loving Vincent, which was the first ever fully painted feature film. Yeah, that's basically a summary. I went to work there for 6 months after passing the testing and the training for 3 weeks. So it wasn't a guarantee. First of all, I had to pay my own trip there. So I had to do a GoFundMe really quickly.
Wow.
And they hadn't guaranteed anything. You would go there for 3 days of testing. If you passed the testing, which was a really quick run through of, a program that you'd use, the station you'd be in, and then like, oh, this is what you're going to paint that 1,000 times. I didn't know much about film or stop motion at the time. I just went and, went day by day, one step at a time. It was a lot of pressure and scary for sure because I went to Poland, didn't understand much of the language. But it turned out to be an amazing ride. I got to meet 65 other artists. I got to be part of a big thing, bigger than me at the time. Yeah, and it turned out to be an Oscar-nominated film a year later. Yeah. So that's how surprises can happen. You just got to be open for them.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So Charlene and I met. The other number one question I get is, how do you find an illustrator? And I'll be always shocked when I tell people Charlene and I met on Twitter.
Yeah, you had reached out. a lot
Yeah,
through
I,
the social media, and I had no idea. And then finally we got into contact, and look what happened. We've
I
been
know.
working for years together.
But
Yeah.
how did you find her on Twitter? You just
I
ran across the account,
another
or?
author who she was the illustrator for,
Mhm.
and hard for a self-published author to find illustrators because you don't want to just contact just anybody. You know, if it's a book and that message is on your heart to tell the world, you want to make sure that it's done right. And you really do have to find someone whose work looks like, you know, what you could live with as a company story, because those images are just as powerful as the words.
Mhm.
And so I saw another author who was self-published, and she was the illustrator for his book, and I really liked the work. And so I just reached out to her on Twitter, and I just said, hey, I'm a self-published author. I saw another book that you worked on, and I love the artwork. Are you available? Are you open? And she wrote me back.
Wow. And the rest is history.
Yep.
Is that typical, Charlene? I mean, how do you get most of your work as an illustrator?
Well, I used to reach out a lot to, I'm on a site called Upwork. So I found out after trying out a bunch of different sites, there's like Fever, I think there is, it's for freelance artists, also many other independent, you know, contractor basically positions and other things, job opportunities. But Upwork was the site that was for me, kind of more an artist, traditional artists had opportunities on that site too. So that's how I first got into illustrating at all. And I started working with someone in England. That was actually my first illustrator job, someone in England that I reached out to, and he and I did our first book. And that was just amazing to see that, you know, be printed and something I could hold in my hand, that I worked with someone across the world. And then that's kind of how I got into it and got my first couple illustration jobs. And then later on, people started reaching out through Instagram, through Twitter, through all kinds of, the most recent illustration job I did with another author. He also reached out through all avenues. He saw my website, reached out there. He saw Twitter, then went on Instagram. And sometimes I'm super busy, so I can't check all of my messages. Not that I'm very, you know, so famous I can't check my messages. That's not it. But, you know, sometimes social media can be a little overwhelming, so I don't go and check everything. But I saw on all accounts the same man emailing me to read his manuscript, and then I read it, and it was good. So we ended up working together. But it's very interesting how that happens. And then there's emails I get sometimes. But yeah, also people that come to my studio. I have a studio here in San Diego, and we have openings. So sometimes people see my work there, and they come up with stories, and I get intrigued. Yeah.
Have you ever been approached a lot with people that you were like, this isn't going to work? Like you said about how you really connected with Deedee. Have you had instances you like, I can't connect with this story?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those, and I only realized that I could say that, like kind of reject someone for that, a couple years into illustrating. Because at first I was always happy when someone would reach out to me, and it would be another job that I could do. But then one of the first ones, I'm not going to mention anyone, but the first authors I've worked with, I thought his story had a lot of potential to go somewhere. It was a very good story. I read through it, and it turns out that throughout me illustrating, he had given me feedback to include certain things that I don't support. So that road was very rocky, and we kind of just unraveled at some point and had to quit it. It was a little disappointing because the story was good. It was just certain things that I could not personally support. So throughout the years, I found out that, you know, it is important for me to make sure that we're on the same page, the illustrator and the author, because you know, whatever I illustrate, that's my work, and so I'm also supporting basically the text that I am illustrating. And sometimes that I may not find that appropriate for children, or, you know, whatever, for whatever reason. And so I have to tell them, you know, it just might not work out, and there are many other illustrators. So yeah, that's
I was
something I learned throughout the years.
you were talking about your studio, and I want to make sure that we get in on this conversation today that you have a big show coming up, not at your studio, but at a gallery in California. And I want to make sure everyone knows how to find out about that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I do have a show, my first big solo show coming up in a gallery here in downtown San Diego. It's going to be called Pollinators. So it's all about our important pollinators in nature, but also about mainly my characters about, you know, empowering females of color. And so I am doing a lot of portrait work combined with natural elements and, you know, emphasis on nature and our support for that too. But it's a very interesting concept between, you know, a literal concept of pollinators and a symbolic one that I get to combine in that show. And it's going to be May 15th is the opening, and it runs until July 3rd in Sparks Gallery.
And that's in San Diego?
This is in San Diego, yes. Downtown San Diego.
Sounds amazing.
I know, very exciting. I think we should go.
I think you should. I would love for you to come. It's going to be fun. I think it is. I am painting every day tirelessly, so hopefully people will like the show.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Deedee, what's next for us? What are we working on?
Don't stop, do we? I'm hoping that we'll have another holiday story out for Christmas this year called In Time, and we have been working on it. We have started on it. Charlene sent me just recently a mock-up of what a cover might look like. So we're trying. I've had some challenges over this past month and just haven't been able to really focus on the writing part of my life like I really want to. But I hope to get back to that so that we can try to get this out. That's the real reason I love to self-publish, because once I make and Charlene will tell you how headstrong I am. I'm sure I drive her crazy sometimes. Once I make up my mind to do something, then I 100% want to move forward with it. And it would probably be hard for me to go the traditional publishing route, especially after I've published so rapidly. I've published like 15 books in 4 or 5 years, and that just doesn't happen in traditional publishing. Your book could be scheduled 2 or 3 years out, and if I had a Christmas book that I wanted released in time for this Christmas or next Christmas, if that publishing company already has another Christmas book in the works, or say somebody who's a little bit more of a powerhouse than I am, like a star, a celebrity comes along and they want to release their Christmas book, my Christmas book could actually get bumped to the whole next Christmas season, and that would be hard for me. So I am hoping that we can get that book out this year. And then last year, Charlene and I did an entire series called Kayla, a Modern Day Princess, which is just absolutely beautiful. You really should check it out, because the story's beautiful, and of course the artwork is that's what I really like about Charlene's illustrations is they're not scaled down illustrations that just accompany the story. They are their own story. Charlene's illustrations are pure art, fine art. I mean, they're beautiful.
Just as much as your writing is.
Yeah, well,
they just go together so well.
They do.
I appreciate you saying that. So we had a book come out, a series come out last year of 5 books called Kayla, Modern Day Princess. And then this year we are working on, in fact, the first book is with an editor right now. We're working on that same storyline, but for a higher level reading range. So this next series, we did picture books last year, and this year we're doing the same story, but for a chapter book size. And it's called Modern Day K. And I know, Leanna, you talked about the K Club right at the start of the live, but for the people who are on now, you should really check out the K Club on the Makeaway Media website, because we give away all kinds of free things for children to help parents and children talk, or just to help children work through some of the icky stuff that's going on right now. The world just feels kind of icky is the best way that I can describe it. Okay, we're getting a couple questions, Leanna. If you don't mind, I'll take these.
Yeah.
Do you sell your self-published books in traditional stores? Caitlin, thank you so much for asking me that. I do have my self-published books in some stores. They're in an indie store in New York called Sisters Uptown Books in New York City. And they're in an indie store here in Louisville called Carmichael's. They're not in the big traditional stores like Barnes and Noble, because you can get your books as a self-published author in those stores, but it just takes a lot of work and follow through. And I write so much, I haven't had time to do that administrative part of that. But my books are also all on Amazon or on the Makeaway Media website, so you can find them there too. So Caitlin, thank you so much for your question. And then Kay McDaniel asks, what age is the chapter books geared towards? And I really appreciate that question, because that's a great question. And it's kind of like with picture books. You would think I'd just be able to give you a range right off the bat, like 7 to 11, but no, I'm not going to give you that kind of range, because somebody told me the other day, I wish I had children so I could buy your picture books. I know it sounds silly, but you can buy picture books. I wish I had some here with me, but they're at home. I buy picture books all the time for me. I just bought Where the Wild Things Are recently for me, because I had it as a child. See the pictures again. So don't let, not being a kid, not having kids stop you from buying picture books, because picture books really do make you happy. They really do. I'm not just saying that.
Do. I get them too.
Yes. And the chapter books, I would say the age range for helping a child read, challenging them to read, would probably be 6 to 10, 7 to 10, 7 to 11, something like that. Again, that varies because, children are on different ends of the spectrum, especially now. I talk to teachers all the time, and teachers are telling me about how their second grade students are really basically kindergartners because of the pandemic. So if I had to give you an age range, I'd say 6 to 10 or 7 to 11. But again, you can buy these books for younger children and read it to them. It's not in there that's not appropriate for a child under 6. And you can buy it for an older child who loves musical theater and needs to be encouraged to follow their dreams and maybe needs some extra coping skills tips. And yes, the majority of books by Makeaway Media are in ebook form, and they're all on Amazon. Right?
I have a question about the ones that are ebooks, because I've just had the print copies. And thinking about Charlene's artwork, are they in color? Because most are usually black and white. Okay.
Kindle's black and white. Well, it was. You can now get a Kindle that's not black and white, but only black and white. iPads don't show up in black and white. Thank you, Caitlin. I appreciate your question. Yeah. All right, guys. It has been a great day, Charlene. I'm so happy.
Actually, before we leave, I wanted to show and remind us of our sketches that we had, because I just found them earlier. So this is usually how the stories start, right? We come up with these sketches from the books. Can you see them?
Yes.
You know from which one this is?
Did you say which one is that?
Yeah.
That's 4, I believe.
That is
this is usually how it starts. I thought I'd share a couple of our sketches that we usually start out with. So
that is so nice to see those.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Caitlin was just sharing follow up on the ebook. Caitlin was just sharing that you can also get a Kindle app if you don't have an actual.
Okay.
That's right,
Caitlin.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think when Kindle first started, it was in black and white, but I don't believe the later versions are black and white now. But that's a great question, because obviously you want to see that rich color.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with that artwork. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, what a great day. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah,
thanks
for having me.
All right, we'll see everybody back here next Thursday.
Yes. See you next week.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.